So welcome to WTF Stories and Advice. I'm Caroline Cranshaw, hypnotherapist and professional shit talker. And today we have a very special episode. I'm calling it Save the Drama for Your Mama. And that's because we have my lovely mother on, Mary.
Hello.
Now, our voices do sound a lot alike. I got out of a lot of things by pretending to be my mother on the phone and got her in trouble for quite a few things. So if you get confused, I guess I have more of a Kiwi accent than you.
Perhaps. I don't really hear it. My voice is a little deeper, I would think.
It's a bit deeper, is it?
Yeah.
So we've had a little hiatus because I got COVID, which was delightful. Not so fun, but it wasn't that terrible. But not that I'm discounting COVID. But we had a little bit of a break, and I decided to save a couple of special listeners' letters that I thought we could get my mother's advice on. So, you ready?
Yeah.
Which one do I start with?
Work your way up.
Work my way up? Okay. Now, these are going to be addressed to Caroline and Daryl, because that's who obviously normally does the podcast. Dear Caroline and Daryl, I love the podcast. I've never thought I'd be writing to you. However, something has happened with my son that I'm too embarrassed to talk to my friends about and thought maybe you might be able to give me some advice. My son is 17 years old, smart, athletic, friendly, caring, and I'm really proud of how he's turned out. You're like, that's nice. His father died when he was 10, so I've been raising him on my own. My son went away for the weekend, and normally he'd bring out his own dishes and garbage out of his room, but I thought I would just check since he was away and something smelled really bad. Now, I've always respected my son's privacy and never been one to go through his stuff, or just standing in the doorway and lecturing him on how he needs to clean it up. He's recently single after a 1-year relationship. She was a lovely girl. I really liked her, but she broke up with him saying it wasn't working anymore. He seemed sad about it at the time, but seems to have accepted it. So, back to his room. Like I said, I went to check to see and investigate the smell that was emanating from under the door and found plates of food. And I don't know why, but I was compelled to pick up some socks and laundry that was on the floor. I saw a black suitcase under his bed. The suitcase belonged to his father, and I stupidly thought maybe he had some of his father's things in the suitcase. You might have an idea where this might be going. And I stupidly thought he had some of his father's things in the suitcase. Holy hell. I cannot express my horror when I opened the suitcase and found a huge collection of ropes and what I only can describe as hardcore bondage gear, ball gags, whips, handcuffs, and paddles. Yeah. Now, I've never been a prude, and I wouldn't care what sexual orientation my son is. As long as he's happy, I'm happy. But he's only 17, and this is some pretty hardcore stuff. I feel possibly my son has gone down a very dark path. Now, I know you say that all teenage boys are watching porn, and I just wonder if he's been influenced in a negative way. My dilemma is, do I not say anything and forget it ever happened, or do I express my concern? I'm tempted to call his ex-girlfriend and find out if this had something to do with why they broke up. I'm concerned that my son has gotten into some pretty risky stuff, and this will impact his ability to have a normal, healthy relationship. Am I being an interfering mother, or should I say something even if it's just to express my concern? I feel completely stuck and don't know what to do.
Wow.
So what do you think as a mother she should do?
Well, don't spank him. He may enjoy it too much.
I guess the question is, did you spank him a lot as a child? I don't know. I mean, she sounds very reasonable to me.
She does. I mean, I could have written this letter.
Well, it reminds me of a time when we had a family friend staying with us. And
he's no longer around, so I don't feel too guilty about talking about it.
No,
yeah.
he passed away. Yeah, he had a briefcase that he carried around and acted quite dodgy with.
He was staying with us, and he had it under the bed in his room that was normally your room. And yeah, did I open it up or did you? I think I did.
We did. I think I encouraged you.
I know I was definitely there.
You definitely opened it. Because you had to guess the combination, and you did.
Don't remember that.
Yeah, it had a combination, and I think you guessed it was his mother's birthday because you knew his parents, and it was.
I don't remember the details of how we got into it, but we did get into it, and I was really sorry. I couldn't unsee it. I mean, it was...
What was in it, Mom?
And large black dildos. Large dildos of various colors.
Large. Wasn't there a rubber fist? Or was it just a dildo? I'm sure there was a fist.
Don't remember the fist. I remember a lot of bondage movies.
I think I was only like 13.
And this was definitely bondage stuff.
Yeah.
And extreme stuff. And he was a pretty good friend, and I had just never really suspected that he had any taste like this.
And the reason why we opened it, because I think we became convinced that he was like selling drugs or something. Not that he was even that type, but he just acted weird. There was something weird going on. Or maybe we were just nosy bitches.
I think we were nosy. Well, he had some obvious alcohol problems, and we were suspecting maybe he had drug problems. And I think it was more, he was staying with us, and you were still at a vulnerable age. And I think it was more of a trying to protect ourselves to figure out what he was doing. And he was between jobs, and there was just some dodgy sounding stuff going on, staying with us.
I don't remember what happened after that, though. How did you just not say anything?
I never said anything.
No.
Because I would have had to admit looking under a grown man's bed.
And cracking the code of the briefcase.
And it was just such extreme stuff that I think he would have been very embarrassed. Because we had been more than friends at one point.
Yeah. And you were childhood friends. Like, your parents were very, like, good friends from...
Yeah. It's funny, though. We had known each other since I was 8 and he was 4. He was slightly younger than me. And he used to love to tell people, this is Mary. We've known each other since we were kids. She used to be my babysitter, and she would spank me. Ha ha ha. Which I did not. Yeah. So that's probably where the spanky joke for him came from.
So I think, so what's her advice for this woman? I guess the thing is he is almost an adult. If he was like 14 or 15, it'd be a little bit different. That's the problem, though, is not everyone, but a lot of, especially young boys, are watching pretty hardcore stuff because it takes them literally 2 seconds to access it. And I think as a parent, and it's a little bit too late now for our listener, of why it's so important to do what you can to block access to that type of stuff. I mean, my stepsons think I'm the meanest bitch in the whole world because I'm basically become an IT expert trying to block hardcore porn from coming in on a router. Because I think it can hardwire a sexual taste. I mean, if he's lovely in every other way, which it sounds like he is, then it's really his business, right? It's not...
I guess, I mean, there's one thing between fantasies and reality, and there is a difference. And if she doesn't see any other warning signs, I would keep it just under her hat as information to know. And if she sees other red flags in his behavior, like not being able to stay in a relationship or liking certain types of people, or not sure which warning signs to be looking out for, then
getting accused of sexual assault. Sorry.
Yeah, but being accused of sexual assault or somebody dying, or, I mean, I don't know. It could be anything. But if she sees other warning signs, then she could bring it up and try to have an honest conversation about, is this just a hobby, or are you looking into this as a full-time gig?
Who knows? Maybe you can become a dominatrix. Can be quite a lucrative career.
Yeah.
It's a hard one. And it's hard.
If it's consensual adults, no judgment.
No. Well, your children's sex life, when they're old enough, is really none of your business. And I guess, unfortunately, you found some evidence of stuff that's not. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. My advice is, don't say anything.
Wait.
Wait. And if some other warning signs come up, like I wouldn't be calling his ex-girlfriend, but when I'm on the fence about some information I have or have come across, what I do is say, put it out there to the universe. If I'm meant to talk to this person about this topic, they're going to come to me and somehow bring it up. That something will happen that it'll like open the opportunity. And if that opportunity doesn't come up, then I just keep my mouth shut. But a lot of times, I'd say 50% of the times when I'm in that scenario, the person will come up and literally bring it up to me.
I am really against calling the ex-girlfriend unless something happens that is a big red flag. Because, first of all, you don't know if she knows about this proclivity. And if she does not, you are really invading his privacy and exposing him and embarrassing him.
True.
If she does know about it, then you're embarrassing her because she may have taken part in it.
Or encouraged him.
As long as she's not hurt, is their business. So it's a big no. If she were to call you and say, hey, I just want to talk to you about your son's sex habits, fine. Great.
Unless the opportunity is so glaringly in your face.
To what purpose would she call the ex-girlfriend? What if the ex-girlfriend says, yes, we used to do this he'd tie me up every other Saturday and we would prance around the room in our chains and our whips. But then what? What are you going to do then? Say, oh, well, I've got to have the talk. I mean, what's that going to do for anybody? She already knows what she knows.
Yeah. Well, don't look under your son's bed. That's my advice. Or daughters, or non-binary, whatever they are.
That's the question. Is she better off knowing or not knowing?
I'd say most of the time, probably not.
If he's not a serious sexual offender in any way, she's better off not knowing.
And you don't know this. Well, I mean, maybe it was his father's.
But, yeah. Right.
It was the father's suitcase.
But then he never said, look, Mom, what I found. So, yeah.
Well, would you?
Maybe, but unlikely.
I mean,
I think the father would have come and gotten it if it was his.
Well, the father died.
Oh, right.
So
Forgot that.
Who knows? I wouldn't say anything. I'm sorry that you're going through that. And
just zip it.
Zip it. Shut your cake hole and don't say a goddamn word. Because otherwise, you're going to have the most uncomfortable conversation ever.
Yeah.
And it'll just be weird and awkward between you two. But it is information to look out for in the future. Yeah, and you won't be in complete denial if something happens. No, and hopefully it doesn't. I mean, what you could do if you're like concerned he's going to hurt himself, because like autoerotic asphyxiation is a real thing and people die doing it. Like a lot of people, well, maybe not a lot, but definitely there's been some very famous people who've died doing it. One way that you can tell somebody something without telling them is like let them overhear a conversation you have with someone else, or talk about someone dying like that and people need to be careful. I don't know, or just mention, oh, did you know I don't know what, the guy like Michael Hutchinson, he died from autoerotic asphyxiation. Hope you wouldn't try anything like that, you naughty boy. Mommy will spank you.
Nothing she could say that wouldn't immediately alert him.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, I guess it'd be great in an ideal world if she could have a talk with him about safety, etc. But I think at this point I would just wait.
What do you say? Don't choke your eye out. No. Sorry, we shouldn't be laughing, but hey, if you've listened to it, obviously you've listened to my podcast, so you know I always laugh. So, well, I'm sorry you're going through that. No, you're not alone. I'm sure there's a lot of mothers out there that have found stuff that they found highly disturbing. And I think it's part of the whole process of maturity, is realizing that your children are sexual beings and will have sex lives, as much as you don't want to know about it.
God knows I found out the hard way.
Anyways, we don't need to talk about, this is not about me. This is about other people. Okay, you ready for the next letter?
Yep.
Now, this one's a real special one. I've never had the courage to address my issues out of fear and of being laughed at, but I feel the time has arrived to get help because my life is out of control. To begin, I endured years of childhood abuse, and as a result, I needed a way to cope. As ridiculous as this appears to you, I found safety using diaper pins and pinning on cloth diapers with plastic baby pants. I wish I had a camera so you could see your face right now. I assumed as the years passed, this unorthodox method of coping would vanish, but it intensified to a level I never thought possible. Somehow during puberty, I connected wearing diapers with sexual arousal. Terrified to tell anyone, I tried to suppress these desires. I became withdrawn and depressed. My grades suffered, and I felt like I was out of touch with reality. Now as an adult, I was having overwhelming dreams and cravings to literally live my private life as a baby. I now had a situation that I didn't know how to handle. Do I tell someone or remain silent? I remained silent and tried to suppress these never-ending cravings. One day I didn't care anymore and I decided to act upon my desires, which brings me here today. Here I am, a grown, educated man, sitting in a high chair wearing a baby bib and cloth diapers with plastic baby pants, eating baby food and drinking from a baby bottle.
Man.
To add, I am now spending most of my day in a playpen, sucking on my pacifier and not caring whatsoever that my diapers are wet and soiled. I have tried countless times to stop this behavior, only to wake in the morning having slept in a baby crib, sucking my pacifier in wet and soiled diapers like it's perfectly normal. It is extremely difficult living a double life, always in fear of being caught, and that's exactly what happened yesterday. I forgot to shut my front door, and I heard 2 women in their 30s knocking on my screen door, laughing hysterically at me. I am no further than 6 feet away and was astonished to see them. I stood up wanting to become invisible or run away, but it was too late. One woman said, "I looked so adorable sucking on your baby pacifier, but your bib is all messy with baby food." The other woman said, "You better tell your mommy to change your wet and soiled diapers before you get a diaper rash." They turned away laughing when one said, "Can you believe that guy's sitting in a playpen with a pacifier in his mouth?" The other said, "Did you see his baby bottle in the playpen and his wet and messy, sagging diapers? This is more than I can handle, and I need help to understand why I am living this way. As each day passes, the more I live in my fantasy world."
Oh, boy.
Any advice, Mother? Don't spank him. No.
In this case, I
think he does need a spanking.
Yeah, he needs something. Wow. It just makes you realize how few challenges I had as a mother compared to some of the realities that people live with. Wow.
Well, it's interesting. So they also call it age play. It's normally not sexual. I get a lot of letters from adult babies. Like, I don't know why. I've never done any.
You must have a nurturing kind of persona.
Do I? I don't think so, but
And I guess it bears the question that would be more topical. Are they identifying as adult babies as an identity thing, or do they just want to be adult babies? Want versus...
So they call it the ABDL community, which is adult baby diaper lover. And it's normally not a sexual thing for them. And then there's adult babies who I want to identify as babies. And then there's what they call the sissy boys. And the sissy boys are more like toddlers. And so they like to wear little dresses and baby bonnets and play with toys.
Do they always dress as girl babies, or are they also dressing as boy babies?
Girl babies. So maybe they're transgender sissy boys, sissy girls. I don't know.
Yeah.
I am not an expert on the whole adult baby community, personally. They say there is no known trigger for this fetish, but I do believe, like from all the emails I've received, and I've had a few clients that are also into it, is they all do seem to have traumatic childhoods.
Do they identify? I mean, do they have age dysphoria as well as sometimes gender dysphoria?
Obviously, I am not an expert in this field. In my experience, it's more just like what they like to do on the weekends or when they get home from work. There's women, well, and I'm sure men, who literally set up their homes like an adult-size daycare. And they have adult-size high chairs and cribs, and they will feed them and change their diapers. There's even couples that are very into this as well. It gets very Freudian, right? It's like they get stuck in this infantile phase, and maybe they didn't get the nurturing that they needed. And so for them, it's like getting some nurturing. To me, that letter does sound like he is maybe exaggerating a little bit. And sorry to say this, but, you know, the detail of the women coming and going, look at the baby saggy diapers. And this seems a little bit like maybe you're writing for fantasy purposes in some way. And that's okay. You can write with your fantasies and I will read them.
Do you think it might be a plea for attention or?
Well, and normally there is. Like, they do want attention, right? And his whole thing is like he's been living like this, and these women walk in and see him, and doesn't he look cute? But what about his soiled diapers? And you need to tell your mommy. That all sounds very much like a fantasy that's just been written in, not necessarily a real scenario.
I don't know many women that would react that way.
No, it would more just be like screeching and running away, rather than maybe some laughing.
It seems like a bid for attention from you, or hoping you'll get on the air with this, you know, in the podcast as a story.
My advice is get some therapy. That's my advice personally. If you've had a very traumatic childhood, well, there's a part of you, obviously, that really needs to be nurtured and healed. But I don't think it's, I mean, whatever you're into, whatever makes you happy, that's your thing. But.
And then what is the cure for, or the therapy recommended for people that have exhibitionistic tendencies? Because that's sort of like, he's got the baby issue, but he's also like trying to get some kind of attention. So what's the therapy recommended for that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, for exhibitionism, it's, I haven't really, maybe I actually have treated a few people that were peeping toms and flashers. And again, it's normally a part of them that is driving the behavior to get shock. Maybe that's how they got attention as a child, is shocking. I had one guy who was really into like peeping on people, and he said that it was basically like his uncles. His mother was much older and had all these younger brothers, and so they were more like older brothers to him. And so they would encourage him to go like peek on somebody in the shower, and they thought it was hilarious for this little boy to go like peek on women naked. And he said that's how it developed. So there's normally some like where they've inadvertently or been told to or peeped on somebody and they get excited, and then it kind of blueprints into this sexual taste. Which again, I think is why it's so important to like try to shield your kids from, because our brain's hardwired to some of the first things that we get excited by. And so this is how some of these fetishes start. The crossover with adult babies is puppy play. There's a whole community of people that dress up like puppies, and they're really into that, or horseplay as well.
Oh, God.
So my advice is either accept that this is what you're into, or get some good therapy. And if you're wanting attention from women, if you can get some therapy and like find either a woman who's into what you're into, or pay somebody who's into what you're into. But I think also if you get some therapy and nurture that part of yourself, maybe you can have an adult relationship where you do get attention from a woman or whatever you're into. And it might be a healthier way to get it. But it sounds like there's some shame. From what he's describing, it's also like being shamed or embarrassed or humiliation. That's the other thing, is
right,
that with this type of fetish, there tends to be like a humiliation factor that they get off on.
It sounds like they want somebody to take charge of them, because if you're a baby, you're helpless, and somebody's taking care of you all the time. It's almost like he's trying to abdicate his power over his own autonomy.
Yeah.
over his life.
Mm.
Wow.
Therapy is my advice. And I'm not an expert in it, so not with me. So, yeah.
Do they make Pampers that big? Yeah,
Well, they do. They do.
Oh, that's right.
Adult diapers. So, well, sorry if I don't have the best advice on that one, but I just more wanted to see the look on my mother's face as I read it to her.
Thank you.
So you didn't ever date anyone who was an adult baby?
No. But I guess what it reminded me of in him writing this letter to you, unsolicited, and being discovered like that, there seemed to be an element of shock to it, and it reminded me of when I was an innkeeper. And I would get this man who used to call up and want to book a room, and then he would go into when I actually started taking the reservation from him, he would say it's for me and my mother, but then make a point of saying he wanted a room with only one bed in it. And it was a double bed, queen bed, king bed, but they didn't mind sharing a bed. He made a point of telling me this. He was probably in his 40s. His mother was in her 60s. And that they liked to share a bed. And he would start just getting more and more down this path with me. And then at that point, I would think, I got to get off the phone. This guy is having a laugh, but he was serious. And I think he was almost trying to shock me and see what I was going to say. Like, we're not that kind of place, or, oh no, I think that's disgusting, or hang up the phone on him. And he actually called more than once. So he was looking for something other than booking a room.
That reminds me of when I was working in a salon in San Francisco, and I did hairdressing and I did waxing and facials. And so this guy comes in and he's like, "Oh, do you do male waxing?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we do." And he's like, "Oh, well, can I just show you where I need to be waxed?" I'm like, "No, you don't need to show me." And I just started getting like weird vibes. And he starts like walking towards the back of the salon where like the rooms are. And I'm like, "No, but," and I just knew what he was going to do. And he gets like into the hallway where all the like rooms are for like the beauty services. And he pulls down his pants and he spreads his butt cheeks open. And he had a very hairy ass.
Oh.
It was like a fro coming out of his butt.
Oh.
He's a very short, hairy man. And he's like, "Look at that. Can you wax that? Can you wax that?" I started just laughing. And I was like, "Get the hell out of here." So I chased him out like I was going to spank him. Literally holding up my head. And all the other women like come out of the treatment rooms and the hairdressers from the back, chase him out. And I'm like laughing and half crying because I'm just like, what the hell is wrong with people? So we call the police and they were like, oh, yeah, are you a salon? Because I was like, this man's just come in and he's showed me his butt. Yeah, and they're like, "Oh, do you offer waxing services?" And they described him. And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "You're the 12th call today." He had just been running around to every place that offered male waxing and showing his butthole. I was just like,
and no one had taken him up on it. That's even more amazing.
Funnily enough.
I would just love to pour hot wax all over that. We'll do it right now.
Yeah, he could have like gone in and actually one of the women would have waxed his butt. It's like, oh God.
Hell.
Well, I think I had one more bad experience where I had to do like male waxing his legs, and then he pulls his balls out and was asking me to wax his balls. And they did not train us how to wax balls at beauty school. Maybe they train that now, but I would just imagine like ripping them off or something.
That takes a light touch.
God, he wasn't wearing underwear, so then he had a big tent pole under the thing, and he's like, "Wax my balls." Yeah, and I'm like, "No." I was pretty stroppy though, so I remember just being like, "Get out." And I charged him extra for showing me his balls, his ball tax.
It's like that old Johnny Carson joke back. I don't know if anybody remember that. What was it? The Tonight Show, and they had Arnold Palmer's wife on the show with Arnold Palmer, and It's just an old joke. And this TV was live. And they asked if she did anything special before her husband played a big match because he was like an all-time worldwide golf champion. She said that she used to wax his balls or polish his balls. And Johnny Carson, who was very quick, said, "Oh, I bet that really stiffens his putter." And it went on live TV.
Long time ago when that was stiffens his putter.
Oh,
Funny.
God.
Well, on that happy note, because a lot of times what we'll do is we'll recommend any books or TV shows. Do you have any recommendations before we go?
Well, the new Jack Reacher. I've been talking about this a bit. On Amazon Prime, the new Jack Reacher series is, the guy's a real eyeful of eye candy.
Big hunk of a man.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I like that it has a plot as well as eye candy. Really enjoyed it. That's the only one that comes to mind at the moment.
And I guess I would recommend Dead Ringers on Amazon Prime, which is it Rachel Weisz or Weisz? I
think it's Weisz.
With Rachel Weisz, who is fantastic actress. It's a bit of gore.
It's a tad confusing too, don't you think?
It is a little bit, but it's like the art direction is quite amazing. Like the colors and the sets and, I don't know. It's interesting. I've only watched, I think, 2 episodes, but it's definitely worth checking out. But if you don't like blood, don't watch it. One of those, but, it's obstetricians. So, all right. Well, thanks for being on the podcast, Bob, and for your wonderful advice about kids into bondage and adult babies.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I bet that's what you weren't expecting. But anyways, so if you enjoy our podcast, please give us a 5-star review and share it with your friends. And write to us with your letters. And obviously, it doesn't matter how shocking they are. We will read them most of the time. Bye.
Bye.
There goes a sight from my soul.